So we are now beginning officially, 9:03, just a few minutes afterwards. Everybody, thank you for coming to the Northeast MICAH Chapter Affordable Housing virtual bus tour. We are getting together on the Magic Bus. The MICAH Northeast Chapter has been around for coming on to 20 years now. Has been faithful and elected officials and city staff, business and other leaders from the Northeast suburban area, and has been meeting on the morning of the second Tuesday of the month, monthly for quite some time. Normally we would, of course, be getting all together on a bus and moving around. We can't do that this time. So we are going to have to go from our virtual bus tour. That means in a second I'll be sharing that link with everyone. We've all been on Zoom meetings before, or I assume we've all been on Zoom meetings before. And so this is our MICAH Northeast Chapter 2020 virtual bus tour. So Janet Urbanowitz is dealing with a phone crisis. Things are not always so going exactly the way that we want to. Brenda Hoffman is here for our faith reflection, and I'll be your tour guide. So Janet is a member of Whitebear Unitarian Universalist in Matamita, and the Reverend Brenda Hoffman is from the Episcopal Church of the Ascension in Stillwater. After this, we'll go over some of the Zoom, some of the rules of the tour bus. But Brenda, take it away.
Thank you, John. Holy God of peace and light, much has been done to prepare for this gathering today. Phone calls made, invitations sent. We gather in this way made necessary because there are homeless, hungry, and hurting people in our world. Because our world is in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, and we must protect ourselves and each other from contagion. Because we care deeply about the least of these, those forgotten, overlooked, and undervalued. Because by sharing our resources, we know we can make a difference in your world. Empower us to work together for the good of the many. Help us to be your hands to clothe, feed, and shelter those who are without. You came for the least, the lost, and the last of this world. Lord, hear our prayer. Amen.
Amen.
All right, thank you so much. The rules of the bus. First off, this meeting is being recorded, so others can review it on later. We're asking that folks mostly stay muted until they are called on. You can raise your hand during our question periods where we'll have question and answer. We're going to visit our sites. Raise your hand physically or in the participants menu or in the chat for a question. If your audio stutters, you can try turning your video off. And during presentations, if this is something that you can do, you might want to use the speaker view during those presentations. All right, is everybody ready? Can I see some thumbs? Let's get on board. So here is our MICAH virtual tour map for today. Featuring many local and other areas, and let's get the bus going. As we leave our place, we're stopping first at the Syncroy Family Resource Center. The Syncroy Family Resource Center partners with local groups to help youth and families with housing, financial stability, and healthy community connections. So I'm going to turn it over to the folks from the center. They can go off mute, and I see you there. And once again, if you want to go to speaker view, you can see them.
Bus people, welcome to our Stillwater office at St. Paul Lutheran Church, where we also have a drop-in center. Come on in. So although we are not open for walk-ins at the drop-in center, we do serve youth by appointment. So pre-post pandemic, the youth come on in, they sign their name. We have volunteers over here to greet them and show them around, asking them what they're needing for the day. So then we come on back, we show the youth around if it's a new youth. Of course, right now we don't have volunteers. So we apply for the volunteers during the pandemic. So we will show them the kitchen, which we have full use of. We give cooking classes and post-pandemic. And then as well as there's showers. And we do have permission from the church that the youth can still take showers during the pandemic. So we're gonna continue on our way. Our youth drop-in center is kind of sprawled out all over the church. So we'll go down this hallway over here. So here we have our computers, both HP and Apple printer. We can help with looking for places to live, for jobs, help them with their schoolwork. And then this is the youth room. And this is shared space with the church and just a really comfortable place to be. Sometimes youth will come in here and watch a movie during the pandemic. We sit at this table at opposite ends, and that way we're able to help with things that we need to help them with face to face. Our donation room. This is our Youth Connections care closet, where we have personal care items, we have food pantry, we have winter coats, backpacks, blankets, sleeping bags, tents, you name it.
We are also very lucky to have such generous and kind people in the community, and they consistently help us keep our food shelves full, make sure we can get all the essentials for our youth, and it is truly the biggest blessing that we have.
For most people, I guess we didn't introduce ourselves. I am Cindy Parsons, the director of the program, and Alexa Shelton was just speaking, and she is our Youth Connections Coordinator.
Yes.
And also street outreach worker, because we have now been doing street outreach for several months. Trained through Streetworks Collaborative and ready to go on the youth, because as you know, homelessness in the suburbs is hidden, but we know it's here. So come on in here. This is also shared space with the church, and it's just a place for youth to come in here, play some ping pong and foosball, and just relax and at least forget about some of their struggles for even a moment. And then we have another donation room. And this one is the wardrobe. So here they can get interviewing clothes, just some casual clothes. There's lockers, they can lock things up if they're, sleeping on the bus or whatever places are not safe, they can lock things up for a month or so. We also have a washer and dryer. So we have youth that come down and do their laundry. So we're working with about 15 different youth right now. And so a lot of that work is phone work. Sometimes we also run over to Valley Outreach at the food shelf to get food and drop it off at their homes, because most of them don't have cars. We're open by appointment. When they need to come down here, they'll come down here. Otherwise, we're doing phone work with them too.
Yes, and my youth clients, they know I have my work phone with me. I respond promptly, and so they know they can give me a call at any point in time, and we can set up an appointment. We'll make sure we can do everything we can. We are very lucky to still be able to provide services even with the circumstances of the pandemic.
So we are trying to do the coordinated entry assessment, and so we can get the youth all assessed. So if there is a program that has an opening, hopefully they'll get into it. But in the meantime, we work really hard to find them jobs that will pay enough so that they can afford a market rate place. That's a challenge, but we work real hard in doing it, and we have been successful several times. So sometimes they've shared a place with another person, and sometimes they've just worked a couple jobs, and so it's working. With our help.
Absolutely. And with two of my clients, just for some perspective, I had a client who was homeless for 3 years and one that was homeless for 6 years, and we actually got them into permanent housing, which is so exciting and absolutely fulfilling, and just reminds us why we consistently do our work.
I see Cindy is sitting down. And I'm assuming this question, is this question and answer time? Guys, Alexa and Cindy?
Hope you're on mute.
Absolutely.
All right. First, I could see quite well, although hearing Cindy, for anybody who's doing a video tour, just get your sound phone up to as close as possible to the person who's speaking. And then Brad Griffith. So how many would you, he asked, how many do you quote normally, unquote, serve?
We're working with about 15 youth right now.
And so, yeah, and that can change on a consistent basis. I actually, through Streetworks, as Cindy said, I am really on call Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So there's this app, the Youth Services Network, and they know my number's on there, and any youth in Washington County can give me a call when they're in need.
All right. Does anybody else have a question? You can just feel free to go off mute and ask it.
So could you put into the chat that link that youth go to so that we can make sure that people are aware of that link for people?
Yeah, absolutely. I will put it in the chat right after our video.
The nice thing about the YSN app is that it's live. So youth can look on there and see where there's a shelter bed open in the cities or in the suburbs. Unfortunately, we don't have shelter here in Washington County, but you know, and youth that are in the suburbs, they don't like going into the cities, but sometimes as a last resort, they will, especially, you know, winter's approaching, and if it's a safe place in the cities, they will get there. I know Tubman will often send a taxi out to get youth that are in Washington County to bring them to the shelter. And it's not only shelter, but it's also just access to other kinds of services as well. So you can just download it free, put it on your phone. That way you can share it with others and let any youth that you come into contact know about it.
And that's okay for us to have that posted at organizations and at congregations around the community?
The more places it's posted, the better.
Absolutely.
Brenda's put a question in. Do you have youth from the farther reaches of the county, Forest Lake or Afton?
Yeah, so we have offices in Stillwater and Cottage Grove, and we do extend throughout Washington County. We just haven't had any youth in those specific areas, but we also partner with other outreach workers, so we make sure that the county is covered for our youth. And we have amazing partnerships, and we're very lucky to be able to utilize each other's assets and share resources and information and things like that.
So we do have, most of our youth are here in Stillwater. There are some in Woodbury, also Cottage Grove.
All right. I wasn't sure.
This is Victoria.
Okay, Victoria. And then
I
Brenda.
do have a question.
Yep.
I know that, you know, having shelter for youth is more sparse than regular shelter, although we have issues there as well, as we all know. So does Washington County, they just don't have shelter for youth, or do they not have shelters at all? And how does the county itself participate in paying for the services?
There are 2 family shelters, and both of them are managed by St. Andrews.
And they're on our tour. One of them is coming up.
Shelter for singles and no shelter for youth. Now, both St. Andrews and the county will sometimes pay for hotel stays, and sometimes those are, you know, turn into several months. And I know the county right now is working towards having a shelter for singles. So hopefully in a year, maybe we'll have shelter for singles. And so we still need to get our heads together and get some shelter out here for you.
Okay, Brenda, you have a question? Oh, Victoria, did you have any more?
No, I just said thank you.
Okay, Brenda, and then we had a chat from Mary McComber. Go, Brenda.
My question is, how easy is it for kids to access services if they go through the county? Do you have a good working relationship with the county? And are there other partners that you work with besides the county that are part of your network for referral?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have a partner with the Bridge for Youth, and she's been working with Washington County. So I've gotten to learn directly from her. She's actually moving over to Hennepin, so then I will get to resume those responsibilities. So I'm working currently of getting to know the host team better. I'm familiar with Washington County Services. I've talked with them several times. And so, yeah, we really just put the word out there, and we have been able to partner with the county to see other avenues where we can find and assist our youth clients.
Are there other agencies like yours in the county? Or are you unique for services for youth the way you serve?
We really are very unique. That we are so we have the drop-in center here in Stillwater and then also in Cottage Grove. So these are the first and only drop-in centers for youth that have unstable housing. We are just starting to look at how we can address the shelter for youth, and we would like to form a community collaborative to address host homes. It has been addressed once before, and it's time to address it again because running a youth shelter is like $500,000 a year, whereas host homes, there's a lot of beautiful, almost empty homes with one person living in a great big home, and such a win-win situation. So we will be starting to invite community members to join a conversation to talk about how we can make that happen.
I also wanted to, we haven't recognized the elected officials. There are many. Commissioner Fran Marone, Susan Bento is on the Met Council, and I also saw around Senator Chuck Uyghur. Fran, did you have something to say about the Washington County shelter?
Yeah, I was just going to add, John, thank you. You know, we do have the Lake Center for Youth and Families that we work closely with that's located in Forest Lake, but we do have contracts with 2 hotels. To answer Commissioner Reinhardt's question, one in Forest Lake and one in Stillwater, that we provide housing and use funding to provide housing. But we do and are looking at more permanent housing, working in partnership with the communities and businesses to identify areas where we could have more permanent housing. Quite honestly, and it's probably somewhat embarrassing for us in Washington County because oftentimes those that are homeless, those that need housing, we're moving them into Ramsey and Hennepin counties, you know, obviously using funding to cover those costs, but because of our inability to provide housing here up until now, we're oftentimes using funding to support them as they move into Ramsey or Hennepin County. But we are looking at more permanent housing. It is a priority of the county board, but we appreciate the working relationship that we've had with the hotels in providing at least overnight stays, but it's not a very economical means of providing housing. I just also mentioned that the faith community up in Forest Lake, actually a number of faith communities are working together there to look at tiny houses as well. That's been broached with the Forest Lake Planning Commission and City Council, but they are looking at some options there, whether that comes to fruition or not. But there is an understanding of the need and a wish to meet those needs.
Excellent. We're going to have to get folks on the bus again pretty soon, but we do have Mary McComber wanted to know what donations do you need, and then how can someone donate? And then I think it's that Senator Uyghur's got a question about coordination with schools. So if you guys can give quick answers to that, and then we'll be going on to our next location.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really just depending on what the demand is. Obviously, with the seasons changing, we're looking at things like gloves, hats, all of those things. And we're always in need. We're really moving to like full-size bottles and shampoos because we really want our clients not to just get the bare minimum. They also should deserve to have nice things. And to donate, my number is always out there. I can definitely send it, and anyone can give me a call at any time and we can coordinate a time to meet. As far as working with the schools, I have reached out and made contact, so at least we have that initial plug in there. But I will be consistently following up probably once a month just to, you know, broadcast our services again, because this time it's really crucial for us to be able to serve all youth.
As well as gift cards for gas and food, and also for Goodwill, just so they can go and pick out clothing that they really like and want to wear. And then also just any kind of financial donations that we would put towards a supportive housing program that we're starting for youth, where we will help them with, you know, that affordable housing is there's not much of it here in Washington County. So if we can help them for a year with some rent subsidies, we are starting that program as well once they get into housing.
Thank you for coming along on our FRC bus ride.
Thank you. All right. So thank you, St. Croix Family Resource Center, and let's zoom on to our next stop. Let's see here. Get the bus, put it in gear. Oh, zooming straight over to Hope for the Journey Home. And we have Hope for the Journey Home folk on. Oh, wait. Sorry, another slide. There we go. Ministry of Guardian Angels, St. Andrews, and many more.
Morning. My name is Trish Brokman, and I'm the director here at Hope for the Journey Home. So we've been in operation for 8 years as a family shelter. We're on the campus of Guardian Angels Catholic Church, and like John said, we're a ministry of Guardian Angels in collaboration with the Community Resource Center through St. Andrews Lutheran Church in Mahtomedi. So what that means is that St. Andrews, the Community Resource Center, does the intakes for the family and provides all the case management services. And we at Hope for the Journey Home provide the shelter, we provide the meals, we provide the hospitality, the welcoming environment, the laundry environment, the hygiene supplies, that kind of thing. We have been temporarily closed. Since, well, March, we took families to a hotel and paid for them. Last family moved out in May. So we just reopened last week to our first family. And there's plans possibly to take a second family this week. We're gonna then kind of pause. In the past, we've had up to seven families at a time because I do have 7 private bathrooms. We most likely will be only taking up to 4 families during the pandemic because I only have 4 private bathrooms. So we're doing things a little bit differently now. We decided to close our 2 family rooms. So when families are present here, they basically can roam the house only for meal times, laundry times, entering and exiting the house. But what we've done is we've given them the neighboring bedroom set up as a family room. So they'll have an individual bedroom and then a family room suite. So in the near future, we'll be accepting up to 4 families. We're going to start, we're doing things a lot differently. We used to have congregate dining. That most likely is going to be eating in shifts once a second family arrives. I've given each family a mini refrigerator, which was not something we had in the past, that's holding their own milk, breakfast juice, snack items, that kind of thing, and their family lunches, because we always had a community fridge that family lunches went into. We have individual bins now set up for families to access their own cereal, their own plates, dishes, condiments, snacks, that kind of thing, sectioned off near a table. So each family is going to be dining at an individualized table, and that kind of thing. Next week, we're going to start welcoming volunteers back. We are, in addition to being a partner with St. Andrews, we have about 25 faith communities within Washington County that in the past have adopted weeks of service. We still have them on the calendar to adopt weeks of service, but the majority of those volunteers are from the retired community, and some are very excited to return, and others have left us know that they need to take a little bit of a sabbatical with COVID. So next week we'll be welcoming back volunteers, and they primarily serve dinner, serve as a overnight host in a separate sleeping environment. And I'm expanding our volunteer pool to now include some daytime receptionists, because another big change is we are keeping our doors open 24/7. Where in the past, Monday through Friday, we were always closed 9 to 3. Let's see here. A big, huge change for us is due to knowing that the volunteer talent is going to be a little tough, is that we've hired a overnight house manager, I might be calling him. He is somebody who was a Vista AmeriCorps leader with us last year, and it is his last year of college. So he started a week ago Sunday. He's here from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. And if volunteers do enter the house for that overnight shift, Patrick will be here as backup. We'll still allow those volunteers to do what they normally do. But to attract the overnight volunteers, we're also offering them a kind of an abbreviated volunteer opportunity, and that would be that they can come into the house at 9, leave in the morning at 7 when somebody else is on the property of Guardian Angels Church. And so the volunteers would not have to go down, make the coffee, be present for the family during the breakfast shifts, that kind of thing. So we're working out the kinks of what the overnight person does and how he supports volunteers versus lets them continue to do their own thing. Yeah, I don't know. What do you want? We're doing lots of things different. We're doing anything from the laundry room is locked and you have to ask permission to use it, or you have assigned hours only to use it, versus it kind of was available from 3 in the afternoon until 9 o'clock at night, typically. No gatherings right now in our 2 family rooms. Staying open more hours. Those are some huge changes for us related to COVID. So we're working out those kinks. It's just been a week, but we're excited to have volunteers and families back in the house. It's good to have some energy back here.
Great, and you all have, every program here has been wonderful, but getting the faith community together like this for this service has been great. Do we have any questions from folks? There's a few enough of us that you can pretty much just go off mute if you've got a question.
How many people do you have in motels right now?
We are not currently housing anyone in hotels. I don't know if St. Andrews is our partner. We took families to hotels in March 16th, and the last family moved out May 15th. They all moved into secure housing,
Great.
I believe.
Thank you.
And then we kept our doors shut here until we figured out how to open safely and collaboratively with St. Andrews during this transitional time.
Thank you.
All right. Any other observations or questions? We've always had folks from the MICAH chapter involved in volunteering at Hope for the Journey Home.
People are interested in volunteering or donating or helping in any way. What would be the process?
I would look on Guardian Angel's website. There is a page on Guardian Angel's website called Hope for the Journey Home, or I can make that available as well. I do have a donation supply list specifically related to COVID that I'm looking for. Most of it's COVID supplies, cleaning supplies, Clorox wipes, that kind of thing. Things to make lunches. We're feeding families more. Once we get them in the house, we'll be feeding them bag lunches as well, since the families will be here 24/7. So there's that. My volunteer links are there. I do have to have people background checked if they're volunteering during hours that families are present. So if they're going to volunteer as an overnight host, sitting at our desk, serving dinner, cleaning up after dinner, that kind of thing, we do need to do a background check on them first. And if they're connected with a faith community that's a partner, the partnering church will take care of that. If not, we will help them out with that process as well.
Could you put that link into the chat box?
I sure can if I can figure that out. I think I can. Our biggest thing here is that we've just done house makeover. We changed furniture. I gave up my office for the overnight person. A place where kids would normally wait for their bus is now some volunteer coordinator's office space. So we've been physically challenged a lot and have done a really good job with that, I think, now that we're ready to welcome families.
Bev, did you have a comment? All right. Any other questions? I'm not seeing anything in the chat. We can certainly zoom back in and get to this, share this screen.
And you can take yourself off of mute to ask a question if you'd like.
All right. Sounds like my little scholar is playing with the dog upstairs. So that's what we get. Thank you. Hope for the journey home. And now it's time to zoom up the street to St. Andrew's Lutheran Church and the Community Resource Center. Oh,
Go back.
pull over there. And Carlos, I believe that would be you.
That is me. Thank you very much. My name is Carlos Ganchoff. I am the Community Resource Center Director.
You're currently off video, as I see you.
Well, I'm having to do a dual thing. My computer mic is not picking up, so I'm on my phone, but I'm using my computer screen. Can everyone see me? I'm the one with the funny hat. So, again, Carlos Ganchoff, Community Resource Center Director. Also on the tour is Chris Mason, who is the case manager for the Community Resource Center. And what I'd like to tell you about our resource center is we help our community from the Washington County and the suburban Ramsey areas with rental assistance, temporary shelter, employment mentoring, food, clothing. We also connect guests to outside community resources. We have 2 shelters, one in Hugo that we presently have family staying at. Actually, I believe we have 2 families there right now. That was a long and challenging process to open up during this wonderful time of COVID, but the incredible staff was able to do it in a safe and thoughtful manner. We also collaborate with HJH and with Guardian Angels to help with case management and intake over at the shelter there that we're very proud of and blessed to have that collaboration. We provide Thursday night meals. So at 5:30, we've been offering our community a drive-through type of meal where if our guests decide to stay, they can park in our parking lot. We've coned off every other parking spot, so it would be COVID safe, and yet they could come out. But now that winter is here, we're thinking that might have to change a little bit. We are a service that I just recently have taken over the director role, and it is an amazing, it's an amazing place, the Community Resource Center, and it has amazing staff. And what we offer People can walk up to our doors presently. We're not necessarily announcing this, but if people are in need, we are there for them with food, with clothing, and everything that we offer. We're presently, we're always looking to see what our gaps are in our community in Washington County and how we can fill those gaps. That's how the whole program started. Let me try to think. We would be giving you a tour of our facility. I thought it was amazing, St. Croix, but unfortunately right now we're having difficulties at our church with our internet, so coming to you from my house. Chris, is there anything that I may have left off?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. If anybody has any questions, we're here. We can chat for you.
Absolutely.
I do have one. How many folks are participating in the Thursday night meals?
Oh, it's fluctuated where we've fed up to 120 people, and when it's been a little bit colder, our lowest number, I believe, was something like 53. But it's an amazing service. People are lined up. We open up at 5:30, and I see people in line at 4:45, and they're waiting there. And it's not only our food, which is very delicious. It is also that opportunity, although socially distanced with masks on, what have you, of community. The first day that I was there to experience it, I overheard a couple of gentlemen who were veterans speaking about their stay, in the services, which was, for me, I was very blessed to be there to hear those conversations. So it is twofold, feeding and community that at this time, again, it has to be safe, but we're all craving. We're all very much craving.
As we're talking about safety and cravings, a follow-up on that, how is the food pantry working?
The food pantry, it's I'm trying to think, since almost every day we have people that are coming in to receive some food. It is scheduled with our coordinator on Thursdays between 11 and 1 for sure, but if there's someone that walks up to our doors and is in need of food, of course we'll give it to them. We'll give it to them, but it's publicized on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Absolutely.
And what kind of staffing hours are you able to run right now?
Right now, we have an abbreviated staff at our site. We, of course, are not allowing people into our facility. Not that we don't want to, but we don't see how to keep them and ourselves safe at this time for our work training and those type of services. We still have not been able to open that up. But if people walk in at the door, you walk in, you get your mask, you wash your hands, and there's plexiglass throughout the whole areas that we would be communicating with our guests. So that's hours. We're open Monday through Thursday, again, abbreviated times from 9 to 3. And this is not necessarily, I hesitate because we're still trying to figure out if we can do this safely. I would hate to have a wave of 100 people show up because we publicized it, but we're opening up slowly and safely, but it's there, and we're helping people. Every day we're helping people.
So Carlos, this is Sue. If folks have people that do need some help, should they just contact you all directly as opposed to just sending people over there?
Yes, please. Please. You can have them contact us directly. We can set up an appointment, and then we could help in whatever manner that they need.
Could you put that information into the chat box as far as how you'd like people to contact you to get people to get an appointment set up? And I want to thank Carlos and Chris. They're kind of some of our newer members of attending the MICAH NorthEast Chapter, and we really appreciate your input, as well as all the folks that join us at our MICAH NorthEast Chapters on Tuesdays. So thank you again for all your great work.
Thanks, Sue. I'll put that into the chat box.
Thank you.
Chris, could you just talk after you do that, just briefly, just kind of walk us through, like when a person does have an appointment and the process for them going through your services? Just kind of talk us through the process.
Absolutely. So I am a case manager working primarily with our families that are experiencing homelessness. So really, if somebody is needing a shelter, which call our main number, which I'll put in the chat box. The first person you talk to is Lois, and she is her title, I guess, is intake supervisor, and she has all the resources at her fingertips, and she knows kind of our families that we're able to serve, and from there, I would at this point, with our abbreviated services going on, I would then have a follow-up phone call with the family. We are doing in-person shelter intakes, and so I have one today actually at 11 o'clock with a Washington County family that's coming into St. Andrews. So we'll do that safely at St. Andrews. Kind of from there, we're just having a conversation really, just talking, what is the family in need of? What are the barriers in between, where they are at right now and permanent stable housing. And we're trying to create a goal plan while they're in our shelter program to knock down and get out of the way as many barriers as we possibly can to get help them secure housing at the end of our shelter stay. The food, kind of walk-up food, our clothesline, free clothing, those kind of things. Really, if people call, we're scheduling appointments to go into our clothesline to go shopping. I think we actually have 4 or 5 families coming in today to do clothes shopping. So we're still providing service. It just looks different with our limited availability to have a whole bunch of people in at St. Andrew's Church. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. I'm looking at pictures. I'm looking around, nothing in the chat. So perhaps it's time that we thank the St. Andrews Lutheran Church Family Resource Center and move along to our next stop. Let me see if I can get this thing in.
John?
Oh, Brenda, yes.
I have a question for Chris. Are you accepting new volunteers at this time? Do you have any way to train people, like just as individuals rather than groups, or is that even a possibility right now?
Right. So any volunteers at our shelter for Hope for the Journey Home shelter would go to Trish. That would go there. As far as volunteering right at the Community Resource Center, right at St. Andrews, we are accepting new volunteers. That's for sure. And they can just call that intake line that I'm going to put in the chat and just say, hey, I'm a new volunteer and I'd love to be able to step in and help out. So we have volunteers right now that are sorting clothing. We have people that are preparing meals for our community meal in the kitchen safely with our kitchen expert, Karin. But we have a volunteer coordinator. Her name is Debbie Larson. And she does all the volunteer intake screening and just kind of really talks to the volunteers and say, what are you up for? What are your gifts and talents? We love people that come in and want to do some data input. We love all of those things. So for sure.
Great. Thank you.
And again, as we put things into the chat, we'll be capturing that and we'll be sending out an email with that information in case you did not have a chance to download that, as well as we'll be posting those up on our MICAH NorthEast chapter section on our website too.
And I feel like as we're trying to get folks on, the questions keep it. Do you have enough food for your pantry, Carlos and Chris? Another question.
I'm making sure I'm off mute. We're always accepting donations. We're always accepting donations for our pantry. Again, now that we anticipate there's going to be a greater need with winter and with different things that are expiring. So we would love donations.
All right. Well, I am also looking, Commissioner Reinhardt has to leave, and we have a couple of minutes on the schedule. If anybody has questions, I know that our St. Paul chapter was very pleased to see the new shelter downtown at Bethesda. But for more northeastern and suburban, any questions for Commissioner Reinhardt? Just go straight off, or
Well, we'd like to thank Ramsey County for the incredible work that you've done around the COVID-19 and working with our Freedom from the Streets and MICAH in having the voices of people experiencing homelessness involved in helping shape some of the directions and the policies for Ramsey County, and the openness, having more folks on the continuum of care that have experienced homelessness too. So thank you very much for the progressive work that y'all are doing, and we look forward to continue to working closely with you.
Thank you. And yes, and as Commissioner Miran said, we have a really good relationship with the counties around us, because we understand, and as you do, that this is not it is not confined to boundaries. And so just really trying to make sure that we are addressing it for the short term in some ways, as far as homelessness, but more importantly, the affordable housing side of this, so that we have affordable housing, safe housing for folks before they end up being homeless. And so it is a continuum of care, and one that we take very seriously. So thank you. Sorry that I have to go to another meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
How many beds is Bethesda going to have, or how many people can it handle?
I know that we plan to have about 100. We feel that there would be about 100 that would be there. I think the capacity, don't quote me on this, but I think it's like 155. It could be a little bit higher than that. I know there are more beds than that, but we are going to be doing some things with space, so that it's not just, the one little room that you have, so that we have room for meeting space and family space and different things like that. So we've got a lot of work to do before, within the next 2 months. We've got a lot of work to do there. But we're also looking at other locations. This wasn't just a, one and done kind of thing. In fact, we had a workshop last Tuesday specifically about other options that will be coming forward to us, because we're trying to move people out of the hotel rooms, because it's not, as I think Fran said also, it's not a very cost-effective way to deal with the issue. And we know that it's not sustainable, because at any point they could say, we don't want to have people here anymore. And so we want to make sure that we've got something that is sustainable. And then really so pleased with the fact that we've got bonding money. So thank you, Senator Uyghur, for a total of $116 million. We really need that in order to move things forward. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us, and so appreciate what MICAH does to assist in the legislative process, in the continuum of care process, all of it. We're in this together. And I know that Sue Bento is on the call here as well, and I do have my Bruce Bento cup, and there are times that I have talked about this, but I want to say what it says on the back. The quote is, "Together we made a difference, Bruce." So that's what this is about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Reinhardt. Yeah, okay. Oh,
Commissioner,
you got one? Chuck?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. And thank you, Commissioner, for your leadership. I am wondering, do you anticipate any co-location of county services at Bethesda?
Absolutely. I mean, we put out a request for proposals. We've got some folks that are willing to, or that we can contract with to actually run the facility. But absolutely, that's one of the things that is so critically important, is to have the services available there, the wraparound services. So it's more than, and that's another reason to not have people in hotel space. We have people on location for that, but it's not the same thing as having those wraparound services. So we are looking at especially chemical addiction. We're looking at mental health services, the things that people really need to get their life back in order.
Great. And one of the things that Commissioner Matas Castillo let us know is that since Fairview had been using Bethesda as their COVID facility. In addition to the 100 beds, there will be a certain number of beds, and she says, I don't know, 6, a dozen, that would be kind of COVID, quarantine-ready COVID respite. Respite's kind of a bad word, but that you could isolate folks in the proper conditions with the negative pressure rooms. So that was apparently something else at that site.
Well, now that I know that Commissioner Modis Castillo is on the call, I don't feel as bad
She's
about
not on it now.
leaving,
No.
because she can handle probably more of the questions than I can, because she has been more involved, especially with the Bethesda, because it's right across the street, literally from her district. It's actually in Commissioner Ortega's district, but
She was on last Friday's call. She's been great.
She has done just an amazing job.
Yep.
Very
All
proud of
right.
her.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And so Trista is on the calls on Friday with us for MICAH and for Freedom from the Streets. And so we get weekly updates pretty much from what's happening in Ramsey County.
All right. So we're grabbing onto our bus, and we're going to go zooming down the road. Just a short little jaunt there to solid ground, helping families build strong foundations. And this is from your website, Trish. Provides supportive housing to over 350 people a year. I don't know if that's still the case with COVID, but we're here to listen.
Actually, we're serving over 400 people a year.
Nice.
With housing, and serving about 500. So I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay. Everybody see it? Oh, let me see if I can get the slideshow. Morning, everyone. I'm Tricia Hoffman with Solid Ground. See lots of faces I know on the call, which is awesome. Our mission is to prevent and end homelessness for families with children, and we do that through housing, resources, and opportunity, and really trying to work towards breaking that cycle of homelessness and poverty, which is unfortunately very generational. We are located, our main office is in White Bear Lake. We're right next to the water tower, actually, and Century College, but we sit back off of the road. So unfortunately, a lot of folks still don't know that we're here. This is a picture of our East Metro Place building. We have 2 programs co-located here. We do transitional housing for families, and that means that families can stay for up to 2 years. And then we have permanent supportive housing. And that housing is directed more towards people with histories of chronic homelessness, disabilities, other kinds of issues that make it more difficult for them to find and maintain independent housing. And those 2 programs serve about 125 adults and children at a time, and about 200 in the course of a year. We also have a site-based program called Homefront in Maplewood, and that serves military veterans and their families who have been homeless. You probably already know that, unfortunately, veterans tend to experience homelessness at a higher rate than the general population, and so we're really proud and excited to be a part of that program. We are partner with Sherman Associates. They own and manage that building called Frost English Village, and then we have 10 units there for veterans and their families. And in both of these programs, or all 3 of these programs, we are located on site, so our services are really accessible to families. We have case managers, we call them family advocates, who coordinate the family's care. And then we also have services like parenting support, budgeting, employment services, and things like that. But we also do scattered site housing, which a lot of people don't know that we do. So we have 3 programs where we are partnering with landlords out in the community to provide rental housing to those families. And then we pay part of the rent directly to the landlord. And that's what makes the housing affordable for the family. And then we bring our services to them. It used to be that we brought them into the home, but in all of our programs, we are not going into our residents' homes anymore. But we find other ways to connect with them. So we connect with them by phone, by text, and then more recently, we got a COVID grant to buy some laptops and hotspots. And then we also use the Ramsey County program for hotspots. Can't remember now what it's called. Tech packs maybe. But we are using, you know, any kind of resource we have to try and bring our services to families and make sure that they're doing okay. As I said, we do offer a range of services. We are working primarily with families who've been chronically homeless, and that's true in both Ramsey and Washington County. Our families have experienced a lot of trauma, and so we really try to wrap our services around those families and give them whatever they need, right? So we're trying to do very person-centered services, but we really ask the client about what goals do they have, what services do they need, and then we try to shape that plan around them. One service that makes us more unique is our dialectical behavior therapy skills training. And so that is actually a mental health treatment program, but we use it as a life skills training program where we're teaching mindfulness and other kinds of techniques to help people learn more effective interpersonal skills and learn how to tolerate distress in other ways that are more positive for them. And again, they get to choose the target behavior they want to work on. It could be being a better parent or quitting smoking. It could be quitting drinking or using drugs. It can be, and anything along that continuum. We also offer, as I said, budgeting and tenant training. We really want to help people learn how to manage their money and be a good neighbor and a good tenant. That's really important to breaking that cycle of homelessness. And also being a better parent. You know, I think it's true for most of us that we parent how we were parented. And unfortunately, a lot of our folks did not have very positive parenting as a child. And so they continue those patterns. And we want to try to help them break that and use more positive parenting. We also offer a lot of services for kids. We have a wonderful out-of-school tutoring program. I used to call it an after-school tutoring program. Now we catch them when we can, but it's kind of a hybrid, just like our schools are right now, where sometimes we're in person with them and sometimes it's virtual. But regardless, we use volunteer tutors to connect with our kids. And then we have staff who are really leading it more than ever now. It used to be primarily a one-on-one tutoring relationship. Now it's more staff driven, but we still want volunteers to engage. They could do, you know, story time with the kids or play virtual games, things like that. And really just make those connections. They become almost more of a mentoring relationship. And it really helps those kids hopefully build a love of learning and start to feel really good about themselves and their roles as students, and start to feel successful. Because as you can imagine, when you are living in your car or bouncing around from shelter to friends to family, you know, as a parent, you don't always have the time or the ability to support your children in their learning. And so most of our kids are well behind in grade level. And so our goal is to really help them feel safe and secure and focused on their job as a student and start to love learning again. So we do try to be very outcome focused, want to make sure that what we're doing is actually working. And we do have very strong outcomes in terms of housing stability, making sure that so first we have to find people housing. And that is always a challenge, but especially during the pandemic. There aren't a lot of units available. But once they're in housing, making sure that they're successful in that housing, and then when they leave us, that they're able to move into permanent housing of their own. And I'm glad I had this slide because there were lots of questions about volunteer opportunities or ways that people can help. We do have both in-person and remote opportunities. We would encourage you to visit us on our website, which is solidgroundmn.org. We also do some group activities. Again, not as much right now, especially as we're going into the cold weather, but there's always opportunities for, you know, landscaping and painting and things like that. In-kind donations, just like our other speakers today, we're serving families who are coming to us with little to nothing. And so we try to furnish their apartments as best we can. We partner with Bridging. If you're not familiar with them, they're a great nonprofit that provide furniture for families in need. But then we provide small appliances, you know, toasters and coffee makers and microwaves, things like that, bedding, pillows, cleaning supplies, all that good stuff. And we actually have had several move-ins, thankfully, in September and October, but that means that we're low right now on our supplies for other families. So we would love it if people would think of us if they have ways they'd like to help. And then just help us grow our presence. Like us on social media, talk about what we do. You can go to our website and see the video from our gala, which happened a couple weeks ago. But you can learn more about us there. So thank you so much for being a part of this and for advocating for affordable housing. It is absolutely what we need most, as people were just saying.
Excellent. We do have time for just a few questions. I know that this has been great, and I'm really glad for that. Anybody want to just jump in? Or, oh, Susan Bento has a question. Susan, please do. I see that you have, you're apparently not muted, but I can't hear you, Susan, if you've got a question. Not getting it. Susan, if you can type it in the chat. Does anybody else have a question?
Trish, could you just put your website in the chat too, please?
Is there a list on the website of needed items?
There is, actually. We have a needs list right on our website that we try to keep updated very regularly. So you'll see exactly what we need and what we need the most.
There we go. Sue's question, homework starts at home. She learned about it at a community development committee meeting at the Met Council.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry I didn't point that out earlier. So that's one of our scattered site programs. And it is a partnership of 10 organizations, including 4 school districts. So White Bear Lake, North St. Paul, Oakdale, Maplewood School District, Roseville, and Mounds View. Solid Ground is the fiscal agent and the lead housing provider. And then St. Andrews Resource Center is our prevention provider. And the purpose of the collaborative is to keep students stable in their housing so that their learning isn't disrupted. So we do it both by prevention. So if people are precariously housed at imminent risk of homelessness, we can help them with their rent. And this is all pre-CARES money, right? So right now, organizations like ours and others are really focused on using the resources available publicly. But in addition to that, we have dollars to keep people in their homes. And then we also have the rapid rehousing. So we are looking for housing, placing folks in that housing, and then providing rental assistance and services to help them get back on their feet. And our partnership with Metro HRA, which is so exciting, is that they are offering us in January 15 housing choice vouchers. So these will go to families who are doing well in the program, but economically cannot afford their housing. And so it is a great way to transition them onto, because our program is time limited. It's a great way to transition them onto a more stable housing resource. And then we can bring in 15 new families from shelter or other, you know, situations. And so it's a win-win for everybody. We're very excited.
And sadly, our magic bus is time limited. It's going to turn back into a pumpkin in just a few minutes. But thank you so much for Hope for the Journey Home. And we are now going to be Zooming from, thank you for Solid Ground. We're going to be zooming up to Hugo, which is one of the many communities that Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity has been building in. And I believe, if I've got this right, Dave, the big Schweeters land donation in Hugo has gotten 33 townhomes to be built over the last few years. And so now we'll take it to Dave Eng and the Habitat crew.
Welcome to Hugo. We're on Generation Avenue. I'm going to see if I can't turn my camera around so that we see this development. There are 8 townhomes here, all built with volunteers. Our church, St. Andrew's, has been out here 3 different times. And I'll take you on a brief tour here. This is the last and 8th building, which is still under construction. I had the opportunity to spend 4 weeks out here doing sheetrock, which is not one of my favorite things. But we have families in all the houses except these new ones right now. So you can imagine how many kids are out here. This place, when the school bus stops in the morning, or used to stop in the morning, it was mobbed by, there must be 100 kids out here. We're going to go into one of the units and do a quick tour here. These are really beautiful 3-bedroom homes. There are 2 bedrooms and a bathroom downstairs. As you can see, we're still in a construction zone. Upstairs, of course, we have living and dining room. Kitchen, there's the kitchen cabinets getting ready for installation. Bath, linen closet, and bedroom. The lighting is a little interesting here. I'm going to flip the camera around again. And pardon my glasses that turn dark when I'm out in the sun. But I'd like to introduce you to Mackenzie Clyde, who is the Habitat Site Supervisor for Habitat for Humanity. And I'll give you a few facts here, and we will kind of share this a little bit. First of all, Habitat for Humanity does not give away homes. I think everybody knows that. Homeowners purchase with mortgage payments at 30% of their family income. Habitat is a developer of homes for families with incomes between 30 and 80% of area median income. This past fiscal year, ending in June, 105 families bought homes through Habitat. There's a program for new construction, such as you're seeing here, roughly 50 homes are produced this way. I'm going to have to back off and take my mask off because my glasses fog up, sorry. Then new in the last few years are homes which are purchased and renovated and sold to families with income in the Habitat target range, mortgages for qualifying families to purchase their own home through Bremer Bank Habitat Partnership, a Brush with Kindness program for repair of owner-occupied homes. 43 homes were repaired. Also, another program that's new, Age Well at Home program. 44 homes were made safer for people that are living at home and maybe have some mobility issues. And then 55 non-Habitat homeowners had foreclosure prevention counseling. And then there are financial coaching available to make families qualified for a mortgage, and 250 families graduated from that program. I'm going to turn it over to Mackenzie for a few other comments here. And we'll back off so she can take her mask off.
Hi guys, welcome to Hugo. A couple things I was going to tell you about was this development itself has changed over the last couple of years. We work in every house and every development works a little differently. So with this one, we worked with Schweeters in donating the land, Anderson in donating the windows and patio doors, and then we worked with churches like St. Andrews and other companies and schools to try and do the building. But every development works a little different. We have a lot of houses that we've done in Cottage Grove, in Woodbury, in Hugo, and all over that area. But we work in the 7-county metro. Some things that are different about this year is with COVID, we did lose about 3 months of building in our busiest season. So we do know that our numbers are going to be impacted this year, but we are kind of focusing a little bit more on rehabs because we can work with less people in the home on rehabs than you can on new build. So we have limited our volunteer numbers to 8 instead of 18. That is so that we are able to socially distance, but we are limiting our numbers, which has also changed. And then also we had a 5-year, $25 million capital finance fund that we were putting together. We finished that a year early, and so this year with the COVID crisis, we are starting our at-home fund is what it's called. And I don't know what the totals are on that, but it's been fairly successful for donations for families that are affected by COVID and employment or furlough with this year. Last week, for instance, we did our employee giving campaign, and the employees pulled together $28,000 in 5 days. And so I know that the campaign is off the ground and running, and I'm sure some of you guys have gotten emails, but the at-home fund is part of our response to the COVID crisis as well. A lot of our operations have changed, but we also have Habitat restores that are still open to help with those families who want to buy or purchase home goods or furniture at a discounted price or for people to donate. And then we have 4 more houses out of our 33, and we're done in Hugo. So I'm going to hand it back to Dave, and he can tell you any more, answer questions too.
Are there any questions for us?
So Dave, this is Sue. We had the wonderful honor and privilege of being out there on the actual bus tour a couple of years ago. Could you just talk with everybody here just a little bit about how welcoming the school system was with the diversity of folks that are living in the unit?
Absolutely. The city of Hugo has welcomed this development with open arms. We see the building inspectors and things like that out here, and they just think this is a wonderful thing for the community. As with other Habitat developments, about 80% of the new Habitat homeowners turns out are immigrants. They tend to have a little bit lower incomes, tend to be maybe larger families, and are extremely motivated and make terrific homeowners.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Well, you just got a total shout out from Susan Bento, Dave, for your decades of experience and your years on the Habitat Board of Directors. And she says you're awesome, and I have to agree with that. Was there another question, Sue?
She's awesome also.
John, this is Commissioner Fran Muron. I live about 1.5 miles away from the Habitat for Humanity, and certainly our Washington County Community Development Authority has helped with financing. I serve on that board as well, and I'm very pleased that we've been able to help with some of the financing for Habitat for Humanity at Generation Acres there in Hugo. I also want to mention that our Washington County CDA has also helped fund the Hugo Good Neighbors Food Shelf, which is located just to the west of the Habitat for Humanity housing area. So we have those services as well, and I think it's just great that that is located so close to where the needs are here. And it was mentioned about the diversity that we're beginning to see. I drove home from running some errands the other day, and I was behind the school bus, and it was just neat to see the diversity that we're now seeing within the city of Hugo. Just great to see it. I know Pete Peterson and John Belisle have been instrumental in working on some of these as well. And I know they're both on the call today, and just want to give a shout out to them and the years of volunteer work that they've provided in working with homelessness and affordable housing here in Washington County.
Amen to that.
And I can add that the St. Andrews Homeless Shelter is about 1 mile from here. And a lot of the renovation on that former rectory for St. Genevieve was done by volunteers, Habitat volunteers, who repurposed their focus onto the shelter instead of Habitat homes for a short time.
Excellent. Well, we have about 11 minutes, and I know that state and federal things have been happening. Mary McComber has asked if there are a number to call, and so at 10:30 I will continue to be on for any kind of follow-up and wrap-up questions. I know Sue has also said that she is in a meeting, so she might not be able to stay around. Perhaps she can, but we will now make it to our last stop. This is our introduction to Sue. If you do have any questions about Habitat, feel free to type it in the chat and strap in, because we're going to make a quick little jaunt from Hugo to St. Paul and beyond. So Sue will be providing our updates on the state and federal legislation. All right, is everybody feeling okay after that? That was kind of a quick
drive there.
A quick ride there. Yep.
So again, I want to just thank everyone for being on the bus, on this virtual bus tour, and making it such a great success. I think over this last hour and a half, we've had over 40 people that have joined in and out of the call. Again, MICAH vision is to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. And we envision a metro area where everyone, without exception, has a safe, decent, accessible home that's affordable, whether it's rental or home ownership. So we hope that you've enjoyed this tour. Want to do some just brief updates on legislation. And John, are you going to be showing the slides as I'm going through this, or? Yep. All right, we're going to jump to the next slide. So currently, if you want to go to the next slide, John, there. We have 8 million people that have slipped into poverty since the federal aid is dried up. And as you know, we have about 40 million people that are at risk of losing their rental property. Here in Minnesota, we have continued the moratorium on evictions through the peacetime emergency. So that continues through mid-November. And we'll talk a little bit more about where folks can get rental assistance. If you want to go to the next slide. So we continue to work on the HEROES Act. The original HEROES Act was passed on May 15th of this year, which was over $3 trillion bill. The House of Representatives in Washington have trimmed that back to 2.2 million. The White House has increased their version up to 1.9 trillion. And so there are still breakdowns that are happening as we talk right now, and still attempts to get them decisions talked about to try to pass a stimulus bill yet before the election. One of the major sticking points is in the White House version, there are billions of tax cuts to the wealthiest, and that we're still struggling with the state and local resources being available, as well as the dollars that would be available for providing the enhanced unemployment benefits and the amount that that would be, and then continuing work on additional rental assistance, mortgage assistance, and then having a moratorium on eviction. So encourage you to still be involved. Please call your U.S. senators and your congressional member and encourage to get a bill passed before we go into the election. The next slide then is talking about what happened, as we have mentioned a couple times, is that thank God, praise God, and thank everybody that's been involved in making so many calls. You've gotten so many emails and from us over the last 6 to 7 months. So in the 5th special session, we actually passed a very strong bipartisan bill, one of the largest bonding bills ever in history in Minnesota, and the largest bonding bill for housing. $100 million for the housing infrastructure bonds and $16 million for general obligation bonds. So thank you, thank you, thank you for all that were involved with that. Also during the legislative session, we had passed in March, $26.5 million for COVID resources to help with sheltering, for motel spaces, for other resources, outreach to help folks. And so we are still working on trying to recapture some of those dollars using some of our federal dollars to recapture some of the dollars that we spent early on from our budget. If you want to go to the next page then, people that experience homelessness have the right to vote. So if you are working with or know people that are experiencing homelessness, they can register to vote on the day of the election. They may need to have you come along and say that they are living in the community or at your site, or if they're living outside, is to have you come along and for you to vouch where they're living, but they can vote. I will be doing a training with people experiencing homelessness at Freedom from the Streets this afternoon on the right to vote, so encourage you to get people out and do that. The next slide is that we have National Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week coming up on November 15th through the 22nd. We encourage you to be involved with that. And then the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness just released their strategic plan. The National Coalition for the Homeless, which I'm board president of, had significant input into it. It really begins to address the questions about all our different definitions of homelessness, how we count homelessness, and the importance of having local control and having people that have experienced homelessness at all the decision-making tables. So I hope that you'll take some time. It's about a 35-page report, a fairly quick read, and I think it has some good pieces. We don't agree with everything in it, and certainly the current administration has not implemented the recommendations, and so it's a wait and see if they are actually going to do what they say. But we are hopeful that at least we are being listened to in regards to having people that have been impacted, experienced homelessness, impacted by the housing crisis at decision-making tables. And actually are being funded a lot to do technical assistance with people experiencing homelessness that are actually reviewing HUD criteria. Going to the next slide then is if you need help with your rent or mortgage, or you know of anybody else, or you can post this information in your congregation or your organization. We had $100 million set aside on the state level of the CARES funding, and then dollars at local communities and at counties to provide assistance with rent and mortgage assistance. These dollars are still available. We would like to get people up to date on their rent right now, so that as we potentially will not continue the moratorium on evictions down the road sometime. I'm not sure when that will be, but that will eventually probably happen, is we want to make sure that people are whole. So people will go back 4 or 5 months on rent, back rent, utilities, and other things that they have. So I encourage you to call 211 or have folks that you know call 211. They will go, if you go to the next slide, we have several counties in the metro area that also have dollars, Hennepin County, Ramsey County, and then the next slide is Washington County. So all of these will be in the chat room and will be up on our website, and we're in our last constant contact. So we encourage you to get people to utilize these resources. We're also doing fairs at some of the larger developments, resource fairs, and helping and encouraging people to come out and actually apply for these different resources. So we want to thank you all so much for being so actively involved in both the state legislative process as well as the federal legislative process. Encourage you to get out and vote and to be, let your voice be heard. And then we encourage you to continue to be involved with our MICAH NorthEast Chapter also. We meet on the second Tuesday of each month. We are doing that virtual like we are today at 8 a.m. And we will send out that information to all the folks that are participating today. And we are just so excited about just the incredible energy and the great work that's being done by the NorthEast Chapter, both on the local level and on the county level, and as you work with us on the regional and state and national level. So we can do this as we all work together. And as I was walking back after Paul Wellstone and I had been at Congressman Vento's funeral, and we were walking together back to our vehicles, we talked a lot about the wonderful work of Congressman Vento and the renaming of the McKinney Act to the McKinney-Vento Act as we worked on making that happen. And I have wonderful memories of working with Congressman Vento in the early 80s and throughout his time up until he passed away. But what Paul would always say is that we all do better when we all do better. So let's work together, let's love and treat others as ourselves. Again, we want to thank you so much for being on this virtual bus tour with us at MICAH. And John, you're on mute, I believe.
Thank you, well done.
And I also wanted to go back a few years before the Representative Vento. Frederick Douglass has told us that power concedes nothing without a demand. And we are here together because we demand that all of our systems and organizations do what's needed to guarantee that we've got this. This is something that we have to use our faith and our ethics and whatever moves us to make happen. And so thank you all so much for that. So I am going to be posting immediately after this. We've got 10:29. We're on time. In about 2 minutes, I'm going to be posting a shareable version of Sue's presentation with an additional couple of counties included. That will go into the chat on this link. And I also know that Mary had asked some questions. So folks are, it's 10:30. We've pulled the bus up to your house or your office or wherever you are. You can now get off if you'd like. If you want to continue, I'm going to go do that. Sue, can you take any further questions if folks have them for a second?
Just add a couple things. So if you're not a member of MICAH right now, we encourage you to join MICAH. And then if you're not getting our constant contact, you can just go to our MICAH website. And at the bottom of the front page, you can sign up for our constant contact to get the latest news of what's happening on the local, state, and federal level, and sharing news from different chapters, as well as that we put out a quarterly newsletter too. We want to thank all the folks that participated, especially all the folks that presented. Great job. Good job on the first virtual bus tour, and we thank you all for participating in that. Do you want to stay around for a few more moments? We will try to answer a few more questions, and then I need to get on to the Homes for All meeting as we're working on policy presentations for the 2021 legislative session. So thank you all again. You are a blessing.
And so are you, Sue. Thank you.
So any questions that folks have that you want to just ask while we're still online, or you can put it in while John's putting some information in?
No, just wanted to say it was a great bus ride, a great program you guys put on.
Not too bumpy?
Not too bumpy. Didn't have to sit in the back of the bus.